obviously we're excited about the opportunity to host, and just putting a quick pen to it. I think I don't have 100% on this, but I think if you add the four numbers together of the RPI, I think we have the most difficult regional in the country, and we played the most difficult Southeastern Conference schedule. So our kids are used to these opportunities to prove yourself. So I think it's a great field. We're very familiar with these guys. We didn't play Mercer this year, but we did play them a year ago. They're a very good offensive club. I think if you look at the nature of this regional, you're looking at some really good offensive clubs, some clubs that have some power. Mercer has tremendous power. Central Arkansas has great power, and so does South Alabama. So you look at their numbers offensively, I think that's a kind of a common thread. So we're going to have to pitch well, play really good defense, and and treat this like another SEC weekend, because essentially that's what it is. That's the level of competition we're going to be playing.
With so many good offensive teams in this regional, John, is it kind of nice to have it at Duty Noble Field and basically have it in that big ballpark that you know very well?
Well, I think just playing at home, being so familiar, kids, staying in their own beds, I think that is an advantage. I think it's a reward for our kids also. I think it's a reward for our fans. So it's going to be a neat experience, but you better bring your A game on Friday night against all these clubs, because if you don't, you're going to get beat, and certainly, the numbers bear that out.
Central Arkansas handed y'all your only two non-conference losses. What do you think the guys learned from that weekend that they can carry into this week?
Well, I think they learned that Central Arkansas is a very good offensive club. They do all those little things well. You look at their HBP numbers, you look at their walk numbers. They know how to get runners on base, and I think that's a big battle. The Friday night guy is really good. I think anytime you lose, you gain something. If you treat it the right way, you move forward and you learn from that. So I'd like to think that our kids learned something from that. I'd like to think that they learned something from that beating we had on Saturday against a really good Vanderbilt team also. So I think that's what happened to our club. I think they have progressed during the course of the year and have learned a lot.
Pitching plans for the weekend, how soon will you want to set that up?
Yeah, Butch and I will talk about it, and we'll go back through their lineups, and we'll discuss what's best for us. Our club is just so different. Our pitching staff's so different from the standpoint of our starters, not necessarily irrelevant. Mm-hmm. It's very relevant, but at the same time, our matchup out of the bullpen is the most important thing to us. So more than the starter, we'll spend a lot more time talking about who our first guy to the pen will be, and those types of discussions.
From the standpoint of scouting, though, John, when you see your three guys on the mound and your relievers pitch and then have swings taken against them against Central Arkansas, same thing against South Alabama, how much easier does that make it for you and Butch and everybody else on the staff?
It's a little easier. Probably easier against a Central Arkansas than a South Alabama, because you get them once in the middle of the week.
Right.
You get a little snapshot. We actually got to see Central play 4 times in our little tournament here. So was that a tournament? I'm losing my mind.
3-game series.
It was a 3-game series, so we got to see them 3 times. So it's a drastically different scenario than just seeing one team in the middle of the week. You're also on the weekend getting to see their A guys. They're 1, 2, and 3, and I think that makes a big difference as well. So we'll go back to the film and break that down, and hopefully have a really good game plan against a great Central Arkansas club.
For the players and as a coach, how much does it help having seen them in person, seeing them against your guys rather than just going by a scouting report or just going by the tape?
Yeah, it's big. Our guys, even in the locker room, they'll start talking about, hey, you remember this guy and this hitter. Our kids have great memories, and we will remind them. We'll do a really good job with the scouting report and with the film.
Did your kids maybe learn something from last year where it was, hey, Sanford's really good, they've got a lot of power, they can do some things, but I think some people were like, yeah, but they're not an SEC club. They're going to see an SEC club, and 5-0 happened.
Yeah, I think I think there's some of that. I think the more experience you have in your clubhouse, the better off you are. And I think certainly these kids have experienced a bunch. They've experienced the Tallahassee at Georgia Tech, and now they're going to experience something that's a little new. Playing at home's not new, but certainly the atmosphere and the time of year is going to be a little different. So, I think our kids do a really good job of not underestimating anybody. You certainly can't underestimate somebody who's beaten you twice, and you certainly can't underestimate a South Alabama club that's ranked among the top 20 in the country. I think their RPI is 16, 15, something like that. I mean, Gosh, I think South Alabama was one of those last clubs that was considered for a regional host site. So, yeah, I mean, this is a great field. And, of course, Mercer is gone on runs this year and beaten a bunch of folks that supposedly they're not supposed to beat. But I think they're a club that thinks they're supposed to beat those teams. That's why they're a good club.
Your guys say they feel good coming in offensively. What are your thoughts on the offense?
Yeah, I think, we're getting hits, and that's a part of offense. The other part is forcing pitch counts and, creating offense and pressuring and things like that. So, yeah, I think in that regard, I think we're feeling good about ourselves offensively. I think our first 3 games of the tournament were pretty clean offensively, defensively, and on the mound. So we got to get right back to where we were in the first 3 games of that tournament.
From the last week and a half, it seemed like you got a lot of momentum on your side. How much of that is perceived, and how much of it is really tangible help?
Well, when kids think they're going to win, they do. And so, yeah, when you get on a roll, I remember reading Lou Holtz's book, and he says momentum is nonsense, like it doesn't exist in his book. I think he's one of the great coaches in the history of this country in any sport, but I think there's something to momentum. When you're a player, you just feel like things are going your way, and certainly that's the danger in playing a Central Arkansas, because a lot of these schools get in by winning their tournament. How do you win your tournament? Well, you're on a roll and you feel momentum by winning your tournament. So that's a dangerous thing. I think you'll see that in a lot of the scores around the country. I hope it doesn't happen to us, but those teams that won their tournament really believe that they're playing well, and that's big.
In terms of the host sites, John, with you being able to be one of the 16, it seemed like everybody in the RPI top 16 but one school got a host site. It seems like RPI with the new formula is kind of the standard bearer now in what we're doing here, and that's kind of tangibly how it worked out. Your thoughts on that kind of being the measuring stick?
Well, I kind of view it like the Constitution. I think I mentioned that to you yesterday on the phone. If the RPI is broken, you fix it. You make amendments to it. Right. You change it. And I think the NCAA has done a great job. The baseball committee has done a great job of amending through the years the recipe of the RPI. Because if the RPI is not important, then why go to all the trouble of creating it? I think in basketball as a model, RPI is everything. There is no geography in RPI in basketball. That's the one thing about our sport. Geography can play into the decision-making because in some respects it has to. But, I think RPI should matter. And if you're going to take all the time to create that secret sauce, secret recipe, then you ought to adhere to it a little bit.
A lot of people talk about Hunter on your team, but Adam at the top of the lineup just seems to really get your offense going. Just talk about him.
Yeah, Adam's critical. All those pieces are critical. What more can you say about Pirtle? How many big hits has he got for us this year? How many times has Dat's been standing on first base when Hunter Renfroe steps to the plate? We have a lot of little, just because we don't have, I think in some respects we have some of our kids are smaller kids, but they're great at-bat guys. They're great. They do a great job of situational hitting and getting to first base, and all those things are critical. Especially when the game dictates now that on-base percentage and eliminating the average fly ball are the things that create offense for you.
You talked about with me last night about this being a real work week, and feel like the guys can put aside the excitement of hosting and just focus on this being another big week.
Yeah, this is definitely a work week. We're going to go twice a day. We'll do our hitting stuff in the morning, and then in the afternoon we'll get into some defensive stuff. And we'll spend a lot of time talking about the field, and I think that's one thing that our staff, Coach Mingione, Coach Thompson, all those guys do such a great job of creating a great game plan for what we're going to do against each individual club. And I wish you guys could almost sit in and see, when we go through the game reports and scouting reports, how prepared our kids actually are. And I think a big part of that too is, the internet age allows them to get online and see a bunch of stuff even before we present information to them. But that's the fun part of it. Preparation's fun, when you do it the right way, and then you let the game take care of itself.
Kendall said he feels like he's pitching really well. Kind of talk about that momentum. Do you see that too, maybe that he's getting back to his form that began the season?
Absolutely. I think Kendall has been outstanding, and I think he's certainly very capable of, 6 or 7 innings in a ball game. The one thing, and I think Kendall clearly understands this, when you have a bullpen that's as good as ours in college baseball, and you have matchup situations in the middle of a ball game, you're going to take advantage of those. And certainly, I think Kendall the other day could have easily gone 6, 7, 8 innings into the ball game, but we felt like we had a good matchup with Ben Bracewell there. So, yeah, I think he's a leader. I think if he was on several other clubs in the field, he'd probably have more innings because, the strength of our pitching staff is our bullpen. And I think our starting guys like that. I think they understand that handing the ball off to the fresh next guy who's been very successful, is important. No other better story to that than Miles Gentry. We handed the ball to Miles the other night, and he was spectacular. You got to have a guy like that who's hot this time of year in tournament play.
Do you feel like that's your trump card, John? Because you know that a lot of these clubs, their bullpen gets smaller. The amount of pitchers they'll use is just smaller because they want to use maybe like 4, 5, 6 guys because they don't trust anybody else. It seems like you're not that way.
Yeah, I think that really helps our club. I think when you have a deep bullpen and you have the Ross Mitchell and a Miles Gentry jumps to the forefront, and you have a Holder at the end, and I'm leaving people out. Certainly Gerardo. I think it makes it a lot easier for you because in college baseball it's a little bit like professional baseball. The more you see one guy, the more likely you are to be on that guy and to take a great swing against him. If I'm facing Chad Gerardo for the first time in my life, and it's in the middle of a ball game, and it's left on left, and the numbers say that left-handers are hitting 110 off of Chad Gerardo, that's a pretty good matchup for us.
Do you ever look at Ross and just say, how are you leading this team in wins?
No, I tell you what, I'm his biggest proponent because as a player, I struggled so much, as a lot of players do, against a guy like Ross. That's why he's got so much value, because you kind of go back to your playing career and you go, man, I would hate to hit off that guy. I would struggle because he just doesn't throw it into that, what Coach Thompson calls the no-fly range. In other words, everybody in our league is so used to seeing 88 to 90, and then you see, 82, 83 with tremendous sink and movement on both sides of the plate. It's disruptive. So we love what he does. And it's got to be the right type of personality too, because if it's the wrong personality, they're going to say, professional baseball draft, got to throw 90, got to throw 90, got to throw 90. He is somebody who's comfortable with his own identity, and that is a really important ingredient on a championship club.
Speaking of identity and personality, he doesn't lack for that in a lot of other ways.
No, he has his own left-handed pitcher personality and identity. There's no question.
How much does it help you having played with a guy like that to be able to coach a guy like that? Because he's a little similar to another short guy who used to throw left-handed relief here.
Yeah, no doubt. And I think every team in the country that is successful has that element, that type of element, and certainly we do. And he's just been a huge addition. I mean, about 2 weeks ago, I'm not a big statistics guy in terms of just looking at normal statistics, but I looked at his stats. He was 10-0. I was looking at his ERA, and I was like, my goodness, that's crazy for a guy, who's really probably more concerned about,
Winning a ping pong game.
Yeah, winning a ping pong game. But it's that relaxed personality, and it's, he keeps everybody loose.
Or a guy y'all were close to cutting at one point.
Yeah, after his fall, I'm like, Butch, is this guy going to pitch for us? Who is this guy? And, Butch is the guy who recruited him, and right there out of Nashville, Murfreesboro, and, he just kept getting better and made a couple of Again, he's the guy who came to us at 87, 88. And that was getting splattered as a freshman. And he's like, hey, let's try a little lower arm slot. Let's try this one-seamer, which is pretty unique. And let's see if we can get beneath bats at 82, 83. And, gosh, I'd love for him to have 10 years here at Mississippi State.
What's the plan to get CT in the lineup on Friday, just from a preparation standpoint?
We're gonna really, he's gonna spend a lot of time getting ready and rehabbing, and if it means him not practicing as much this week to get him in the lineup, that's what we're going to do, because he's a really important piece to what we do.
Health-wise, you feel pretty good. Mitch looks like he's fine when you put him in there.
We do. I feel like Mitch is there. I was asking about that this morning when we were hitting. I feel like Mitch is getting really close to 100%, and just typical late in the year fingers, muscle strains, things like that. But again, you want to do enough to make sure you're ready for Friday, but you also don't want to blow anything out at the same time.